Good evening, children. How are you all? I hope everyone are doing fine. Let us continue with the chapter 5, that is periodic classification of elements. So in our previous class we were studying about early attempts for the discovery of arrangements of elements, right? So that is early attempts at the classification of elements. So we studied about Daubigny's triads. So and also we studied few drawbacks in his attempts, right? So next comes Newland's law of octaves. So next comes Newland. So he discovered the classification. He made an attempt of classifying the elements, and also it had the few drawbacks also. So Newland, he made some attempts. Okay, so here we shall have a little introduction to Newland. Okay, so the attempt of Daubigny encouraged other elements to correlate the properties of elements with their atomic masses, right? So in the year 1866, John Newland, so his full name is John Newland, so he was an English scientist. So he arranged the known elements in the order of increasing atomic masses. Okay, so he started with the element having the lowest atomic mass, that is hydrogen, and ended at the thorium, so which was the 56th element. Okay, so he found that every 8th element had properties similar to that of first. He compared this to the octaves found in the music, that is he called it as law of octaves, and it is also known as Newland's law of octaves. Okay, in Newland's octaves, the properties of lithium and sodium were found to be the same. Okay, so this is the basic thing that you need to keep it in mind. I just said it theoretically. Let's see its description in the next slide. Okay. So coming to Newland's law of octaves, when elements are arranged in the order of their increasing atomic masses. Just understand, this is a statement of this law of octaves, Newland law of octaves. So when elements are arranged, so what he did was he arranged in their increasing atomic mass. So he looked into the atomic mass number and he arranged in an increasing order. So the properties of the 8th element. Okay, for example, he has arranged 8 elements in an increasing order, and he said that the 8th element is having the same property of the first one. Okay, so that is what this statement is telling. The properties of the 8th element are the repetition of the properties of the first element. So he compared this arrangement of elements with the musical notes, that is musical scale, that is sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni and sa. You can count. Sa is first one, re second one, ga third one, ma fourth one, pa fifth one, da sixth one, ni is the 7th one, and next comes sa. So here the 8th element is having the same property of the first one, isn't it? So next it follows the same. Okay, so this is what the comparison he gave to this law. So here, and also these Newland's law of octaves has also had some limitations. So as you see, the name itself says it is octaves, right? So the 8th element in the arrangement of the musical notes has the same property of the first one, right? So this is what the statement given by Newland. But this classification adds some limitations. So what are all the limitations? The law was applicable only up to the calcium. So when he was arranging, the law was applicable only till calcium. Okay, so what did Newland assume was, he assumed that there was only 56 elements, right? So he assumed that only 56 elements existed in nature and no more elements could be discovered in future. So he assumed like that. He thought only 56 elements were existed in the nature, and after this there was no elements could be discovered in future. He predicted that Nobody is going to invent or discover the new elements. So it is only 56 elements as per now in the nature. So let me arrange like this, and he classified so. Okay, so now we have 118 elements where 96 are natural, right? Yes. So which is occurring in the nature is 96 elements. So totally we have 118 elements. So by that time he thought that only 56 elements could exist and nobody else can discover any other new element, or no more new elements is going to exist. He thought so, and he made a classification based on a octave rule, just with a comparison to the musical scale. But later on several new elements were discovered. That is the reason we are having 118 elements totally now, right? And here next point, next drawback is he adjusted two elements in the same slot. So when he was arranging 56 elements, so few elements were merged with the same element. Okay, so he just adjusted. So when he found that the other elements cannot be classified, what he did is he merged that element with the same element. Okay, same slot. I'll show you the picture in the next coming slides. Okay, but also put some unlike elements in the same node. So he not only placed two elements together, but also he placed the unlike elements together. Okay, so when noble gases were discovered, okay, so what happened was, when noble gases were discovered, the properties of the eighth element, okay, so the properties of eighth element were no longer similar to the first one. When the noble gas was discovered, so according to octave, the eighth element should have the property of the starting element, right? But here when the noble gases were discovered, so that noble gas with the eighth element, it was not at all, it doesn't have any same physical properties with the first one. So this adds some drawbacks. Okay, so now the main important concept that you need to tick here is, the drawback is he adjusted two elements in the same slot, but also put some unlike elements in the same node. Okay, so this we will look into. So here you can see this table shows Newland arranged elements in octaves. For example, hydrogen, fluorine, calcium, cobalt, nickel, bromium, and these all elements you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the fourth element and next eighth element, you can see he has merged two elements together. Okay, like unlike as well as unlike elements in the same slot, right? So cobalt and nickel is placed in the same slot, right? Same like that you can see here many such elements. The noble gases, after noble gases were discovered, they were put into the same slot because they had a what do you say, so they didn't have the same property of the first element. Okay, so this was the drawbacks. In the 1863, John Newland classified the 56 established element into 11 groups, so based on similar physical properties. So he assumed only the physical properties, and he assumed that only 56 elements were naturally occurring, and no other elements could be existed in the future. Nobody is going to discover it and it won't exist. He assumed like that, and he classified this table, so that he classified into 11 groups. So next most important what do you say, classification that we are going to study is Mendeleev's periodic table. So because it is so vast, I couldn't take up in this class, so we will see in the next class. Okay, so till then, take care children.